Perhaps if all the brothers and sisters that have fallen ill had heard this, things would be different. Perhaps if Brother Eugene Gates had heard this, he would still be here with us today. You are not pack mules or machines. You are strong, loyal, dedicated, hard-working, precious sons and daughters, moms and dads. It is important that we remember the essence of what makes us human. And it's not this job. Management cannot discipline you and have that discipline stick or be progressive towards you losing your job over the speed they think you should be walking at, resting at, sitting at, standing at, or thinking at. Now, JCAM Article 34 is the main principle upon which our rights in this regard are based. All the national decisions and national pre-arbitration decisions, which I'm going to mention today, they flow from JCAM Article 34. The principle of a fair day's work for a fair day's pay, it says, is recognized by all parties to this agreement. All parties, including management. The employer agrees that any work measurement, systems, or time or work standards shall be fair, reasonable, and equitable. The employer agrees that the union concerned through qualified representatives will be kept informed during the making of time or work standards, studies which are to be used as a basis for changing current or instituting new work measurement systems or work or time standards. The employer agrees that before changing any current or instituting any new work measurement systems or work or time standards, it will notify the union concerned as far in advance as practicable. When the employer determines the need to implement any new nationally developed and nationally applicable work or time standards, it will first conduct a test or tests of the standards in one or more installations. The employer will notify the union at least 15 days in advance of any such test. We have not had any notification of a change to Article 34 work and or time standards. No time studies or test notifications. So Article 34 is still the only time and work standard on the planet for us as letter carriers. There is no other standard, not even 18 and 8. This is not a standard to which you can be subject to discipline. In National Pre-Arbitration M-0304, each of these cases involved a discipline issued to letter carriers as a result of route management. Sound familiar? In this composite decision, the National USPS Labor Relations Representative and the National Vice President agreed. In keeping with the principle of a fair day's work for a fair day's pay, it is understood that there is no set pace at which a carrier must walk and no street standard for walking. No street standard. There is no street standard. Please understand that standing, loading your satchel, sorting parcels into delivery order, checking your accountable pouch, all of these ancillary functions are included in your street functions, and they all take the time they take. There is no time standard for how fast you must check your accountable pouch, how fast you must sort your parcels into delivery order, or check your mail. There is no time standard. In National Decision H1N 5BC 291-31, or M number M-00829, the question was raised whether management may discipline a letter carrier for expansion of street time and or unauthorized overtime using data obtained by management during a one-day inspection of the carrier's route. The answer is no. No employee may be disciplined except for just cause. In National Decision Q98N4QC 01045840, or M-1458, it states MSP data does not set performance standards, either in the office or on the street. So that scanner data that we used to obtain from MSPs does not set a performance standard in the street. Are you starting to get the idea? Now, another part of Article 41, which we're going to read, speaks of another principle closely related, and its application also is relevant to stationary event discipline. It talks about lawn crossing. It's a decision by National Arbitrator Garrett. It says, National Arbitrator Sylvester Garrett did not set down clear standards for determining when customers have objected to carriers crossing their lawns and when hazards exist which would make crossing lawns unsafe. Garrett did set down the following general guidelines. A carrier may be instructed broadly to take all obvious shortcuts and to cross all lawns where there is no reason to believe the customer may object. However, the determination of what constitutes an obvious shortcut or whether a hazard exists is made in the first instance by management, by a GPS scanner? No, by the carrier. The carrier's judgment can be exercised only in the light of the specific conditions at the locations involved. A supervisor may conclude, after personal observation, notice, after personal observation and discussion with the carrier, that a particular lawn should be crossed and order the carrier to cross the lawn. The carrier may not ignore such an order with impunity. His remedy is to file a grievance. However, discipline should not be imposed upon a carrier who had exercised his discretion and not crossed lawns merely because a supervisor later decides that some of the lawns could have been crossed. Wait a minute. So are you saying that if I'm questioned about a stationary event, I can just answer, well, that is my discretion? Absolutely. You can answer as to why you were stationary because that is my discretion. The same principle applies to street observations, wherein a supervisor may be watching you and states that you should have done this or that in order to be more efficient. Well, let's think about this for a second. If these standards or absence of standards apply during a personal observation by a supervisor, wherein a lot more facts are noticed and noted than by a simple GPS scanner stationary event, It certainly applies to stationary event scanner data questions. You are the letter carrier. You decide when, how, and where to perform your office and street functions however you want and see fit, unless there is a specific rule or procedure in handbooks and manuals that you must follow. Did everybody get that? You, the letter carrier, decide when, how, and where to perform your office and street functions however you want and see fit, unless there is a specific rule or procedure in handbooks and manuals that you must follow. Let that sink in for a moment. What do national arbitrators say about this? A very significant precedential settlement to consider is National Arbitrator Aaron's decision in NC-C 11675 dated August 1st, 1979. There it states, conclusions that an employee is regulating his performance are in their nature subjective. There are so many variables that may affect performance that it is almost impossible to determine quantitatively how much delay, if any, is due to the deliberate attempt by a worker to slow down. The evidence adduced by the Postal Service to support its conclusion that the carrier was in effect soldiering on the job during the week of the special count and inspection is insufficient to sustain its burden of proof. Even if it had sustained that burden, however, it seems clear that the only course available to it was to discuss the problem with the carrier, as provided in section 242.211 of the M39 manual, and to reduce the allowable office time to the average standard allowable time as provided in section 242.213. What the Postal Service actually did, and this arbitrator hit this nail right on the head, was unilaterally to change a current work or time standard without advance notice to the union in violation of Article 34B of the National Agreement. So we have that national decision that says that MSP does not set performance standard. When are we going to get a national decision that says GPS data does not set performance standard? Is anybody out there listening to this? That would be very helpful. So, now you're called for an investigative interview. You may get nervous or scared about what you should say, but we're going to go over some of the basic questions you're going to be asked. Some of them quite persistent questions. For example, you're going to be asked, are you aware that ELM section such and such states the following? Be honest, brothers and sisters. Be brutally honest. If I give you an ELM, could you find that section? Have you memorized it? So the answer to that question, the honest answer, is no. That is the simple answer. No, I am not aware that the ELM at section such and such states this or that. What about, are you aware? It is your responsibility to follow instructions. The answer, yes, if the instructions are clear. What instructions did I fail to follow? That should be your answer. Next question. DMS breadcrumb report shows that your scanner was stationary for 18 minutes at such and such time. Why? Answer, I was working. Next question. What kind of work were you doing? Answer, delivering my route. Question. What kind of mail delivery were you doing when you were stationary for 18 minutes? Answer, street delivery. Did I do something wrong? I invite you to come out to the street and observe me every day and let me know if I am doing anything wrong. These should be your answers, verbatim, brothers and sisters. Keep it simple. They can't make you incriminate yourself. And they have no right to know why you were stationary. No, at least not from your mouth. They have no right to know that. The answer to that question must come from their actual observation of what you were doing. Make them come out and observe you. Make them do the work. Don't ever, ever speed up just because you are afraid of being questioned about your activities later. Never, brothers and sisters. They cannot force you to incriminate yourself. They cannot sustain their burden of proof. We have national precedents. We have Article 34 on our side. We have the fact they have not notified the union. We don't have a national decision yet, like the MSP decision. Why don't we have one? I don't know. But if national is listening, that would be very helpful. Take your lunch. Take your breaks. Take your unlimited comfort stops. Unlimited, you say? Why? Why do you say that? Because show me where it says that there is a limit to the number of rest or comfort stops that I am allowed to take, especially in the heat. The only limit, brothers and sisters, you have out there is the limit imposed by your own individual body and health, especially in this hot and muggy, sweltering sun. And if you exceed that limit, then you will lose not only your job, you will lose your life. We don't want to be comforting your family because you were afraid, because you thought you would lose your job because of stationary events. Until next time, brothers and sisters, don't let them get away with anything. And may you get away with everything so that you may enjoy life and retire. That is my wish for you. Your health is your wealth.